a colleague from the Heritage Council, Alia Kamal. And I understand that the Heritage Council also has funds for heritage traveller-led projects. So Alia, if you're there, you might also perhaps add into the chat some information about that. We're very keen to build on existing partnerships, so you may already be working together in some way, but perhaps haven't had a strong creative element to the work, so that could be built in. So existing partnerships as well as new partnerships, and you'll hear about some of our pilot projects from last year. The other thing I suppose to add, because I know that there are a lot of people from local authorities, etc., on this call, that unlike perhaps other funding given from the likes perhaps of the Arts Council, where you might ask for a certain amount of money but be given less, you will be given the money that you apply for. There's no haggling, there's no shaving of the money. If that's what you feel you need to do this project, that's what you're given. So that's the plus side, because sometimes people apply and then are asked, can you do the project for half of your budget? That won't be the case here. So I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who'll take you step by step through the programme. And as I say, any questions, any observations, if we're not able to answer them today, we will be putting them up on the FAQ early next week. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, Tanya. Very much appreciated. Can I just call on Alicia Clark, please, to say a few words from the HSE side before we start? Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks, Valerie. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you today. So my name is Alicia Clark. I'm the National Programme Manager for Mental Health and Wellbeing in the HSE. And I suppose just to say we're really delighted to be collaborating with Creative Ireland and the Arts Council on this initiative for the second year running. This initiative is hugely important to the work that we're doing in the HSE in supporting population level mental health and wellbeing. So last April, the HSE launched our 5-year mental health promotion plan, which is called Stronger Together. And within that plan, 27 actions in total, but one specific action, which is a particular focus on promoting the mental health and wellbeing of the traveller community. As we all know, creativity and participation in the arts have a hugely important role to play in supporting positive mental health and well-being, in that they're supporting that kind of creation of a space of social connecting, enhancing self-esteem and promoting resilience. And really, there's many examples of good practice in the area of arts and promoting positive mental health. And I suppose we were just really fortunate to last year start in this journey with Creative Ireland and the Arts Council and bringing the potential of the creative arts to the traveller community. So I suppose just to give you a real high level bird's eye view of some of the projects that we funded last year. So it's 5 projects in total. We had one project which was based in Limerick, which involved dance, film, music and visual arts to celebrate traveller culture. We had a project which was based in Ballymun, and that sought to really celebrate superstitions and traditions within the traveller community. We had a project which was focused around cultural identity and really that sense of self as being core to well-being amongst the traveller community. We had a Travellers on Screen project, and that was focused on a set of travellers participating in creative performances. And our final project was a photography project, and that was focused on new ways of exploring and representing diversity and the vibrancy of the traveller culture. So where we're at in terms of last year's projects now is we're working with an evaluation team to look at the projects, how they were delivered, and also to look at their impact around those who were participating in the project. So we're busy with that kind of data collection aspect at the moment. And the idea is that the results from last year's work will be used to, I suppose, refine and inform the work that we do, on an ongoing basis, in kind of, I suppose, looking at how we can strengthen this work going forward. So that's it from me, just a real high level summary. But I suppose just to kind of reinforce, we're really thrilled here in the HSE to be collaborating on this really important work.
Thanks a million, Alicia. And Bridget Quirk is also with us on the call today as well from the HSE, and she's just going to say a few words before we start the presentation. Thanks, Bridget.
Hi, thank you very much and welcome everybody. Yeah, my name is Bridget Quirk and I'm the Programme Manager for Traveller Health within the National Social Inclusion Office in the HSE. It's a very long title. But basically my interest, my background is I have spent over 20 years working with travellers in terms from the community and voluntary and in the health policy side. I was recently involved in the preparation of the new traveller health national policy, and really what we'd be really concerned about, and I think people are probably aware of the health inequalities experienced by travellers. So we have an issue where we still have 134 excess deaths a year. Life expectancy differential is 15 years difference for traveller men. It's 11.5 for traveller women. Mortality is 3.5 times greater among adults, 4 times the infant mortality rate. And I suppose I was involved in a recent study, the All Ireland study, which repeated the 1987 study and actually showed there was a little improvement, but because the general population have improved so much, the gap has actually widened. And obviously with recent statistics coming out of HRB on increasing poverty, the situation is probably that health status and the health inequalities have probably deteriorated. So I suppose it's in that context that we have our interest in participating in this. We feel obviously mental health is a huge challenge. There's 12 actions in mental health in the National Traveller Roma Inclusion Strategy. There's another 8 specific actions in the National Action Plan. So obviously because of the suicide rate is nearly 7 times higher among travellers. The recent data out from UCC on suicidal ideation is much higher. A big challenge we have is due to the lack of an ethnic identifier, and a lot of data sets is quite difficult to get up to date and monitor equality of access, participation and outcome to services. So obviously my personal interest in this is obviously the idea that traveller culture by its nature work very creatively. They have very oral, rich culture. They engage in terms of like their work on storytelling, music, their beady pockets. They tell their stories through their creative mechanism. So it almost lends itself very nicely to work with travellers. Also, the idea is travellers were recognised as an ethnic group in March 2017. There has been an issue that travellers feel they have to deny their identity in order to engage because of their experience of racism and discrimination. So I think this project is really important about developing travellers' confidence in terms of their, as my colleague Alicia said, in terms of resilience, their confidence in their own culture, in their self-esteem, in their identity. And that's really important in terms of informing health and well-being, which obviously for us is the purpose of this project. So thank you very much. Also, obviously, because of my links, I link into all the National Traveller Health Networks. As Tanya had mentioned, there's National Traveller Health Advisory Forum, there's Traveller Health at national level, there's Traveller Health Units at regional, and there's a network of primary healthcare for traveller projects where travellers themselves have been trained as liaison and health workers between the HSC. So those are the links we could have in terms of anybody needs links in terms of engagement with the traveller health infrastructure. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bridget. And as you can all see, there's a wealth of information available from our colleagues there as well. So please feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions after the seminar as well. So I'm going to try and share my screen with you now, hopefully with some success. Can you all see my screen?
Yes. It's not a slideshow, Valerie. We're seeing all of the slides. If you could maybe make it slideshow.
Oh, it's showing as a slideshow for me. Sorry about that. Is that better?
If you hit enable editing, and then I think it might show as a slide.
Now, when I go to from the start slideshow, oh, apologies about this now. It worked from beginning. Is that working now?
No, we can't see your screen.
I'm really sorry about this. We did a trial run and it worked perfectly, so I don't know what's going on at the moment. Apologies. One more time with feeling.
You can see the slides now. Just perfect, Valerie.
Oh, thank you very much. As if I wasn't nervous enough. Okay, so the process, I suppose, who is involved in this? We've already heard from some of our colleagues. So the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and the Media, headed by ourselves in Creative Ireland. We have the Department of Health and the Health Service Executive and the Arts Council are also our partners on this. Why are we doing it? Well, we've plenty of research now that shows that health and well-being is greatly enhanced by creative engagement. And we also know that travellers have poor health outcomes compared to the majority of the population. So in order to assist with health and well-being in the traveller community, we want to increase creative engagement through this project. What we're looking for this year is 3 to 5 high quality creative projects that'll cost in the region of 30,000 to 50,000 euro per project. Last year, what we had was projects up to a maximum of 50,000. But we did get some feedback that smaller projects may be possible with less funding. So 30,000 to 50,000 will be the cost per project this year. And we also have a new initiative this year as part of the government's Shared Island project. We also have 50,000 euro funding for a shared island project, which can involve organisations from the north of Ireland and from the UK. Linking to support networks. So we know that there are a lot of linkages at the moment that are very successful between the HSE and traveller health networks, etc. But we'd like to increase all the support networks connectivity. And hopefully through these projects, people will be more connected to the organisations that can assist. What kind of projects are we looking for? Well, we're looking for creative projects, but we're not being prescriptive. So anything from music to visual arts to crafts, storytelling, film, there's a list that's much longer than the one that's there, but we will take the broadest definition possible of creativity, traditional or contemporary. The successful projects in 2022, I think Maura might be able to give us a few details about the projects that we funded last year.
Yeah, I know Alicia gave you a bit of information, but I might just elaborate a little bit more on them. So the first project, Gothna Minkeri, as Alicia said, this was Limerick based. So, and it did, as she said, feature dance, film, music, visual art, craft, and discussion that celebrated the traveller culture. It culminated in a weekend festival in the Bell Table in Limerick, which featured an exhibition of traveller work by traveller women, a music showcase curated by Willsey, an audio installation of traveller mothers' voices, and a documentary short by David McDonough. The next project was the Pitch Road project. So the Pitch Road project, it was a traveller designed and led project that was sought to collect, document and celebrate superstitions and traditions of the traveller community in Ballymun. The third project, which is Cultural Action, Cultural Rights Foundation for Wellbeing. So they had a variety of different projects involved in this that featured the cant language. It featured the Night Shift play by Rosaline McDonough, which was a play that had a full traveller cast. And Galway Traveller Movement hosted day camps reenacting life on the road with the traditional tents and barrel top wagons present. The transfer of traditional skills happened on site with interactive workshops on making griddle bread, paper flowers, tinsmithing and beady pockets. The fourth project, Travellers on Screen. So John Connors, he ran a series of 5-day workshops across Ireland and brought together novice actors, filmmakers and scriptwriters through impactful training. The training also involved a mental health component using mindfulness and creative play to illustrate the power of expressive communication. And then our final project, Through Our Eyes. So this project, Martin Bean's Ward, he worked with 10 traveller participants, and he would have had a series of one-on-one conversations with these participants and collaborate with each of them to create photographs that explored new ways to represent the diversity and vibrancy of the traveller culture. This culminated in an exhibition. It was on the 3rd of November in the Photo Museum Ireland in Temple Bar in Dublin. So that's the 5 projects. Back to you, Valerie.
Thanks a million. Okay, so then who can apply to be part of the projects this year? So traveller organisations across the island of Ireland with experience in any of the following areas: health, wellbeing, creativity and the arts. And like I said, in 2023, in keeping with the Irish Government's Shared Island Initiative, applications can also be accepted from Northern Ireland and UK-based organisations, working with traveller organisations in the Republic of Ireland with experience in the same areas: health, wellbeing, creativity and arts. Other interested and experienced artists and creative organisations, single organisations or multiple organisations and individuals applying as a group, with each partner bringing different skills and experience to the project. The lead applicant should not be a local authority, but local authorities can be a supporting partner in a group application. And an application from an individual person applying without any supporting partners won't be accepted. So a successful application would be something similar to the projects that Maura has outlined from last year. A co-production with travellers in design and development in the initiative. A track record of working effectively with travellers in improving health and well-being. They should also have a strong creative idea and a track record of good delivery, and an ability to promote working relationships between health and the arts sectors and traveller organisations. They'll also need to be able to demonstrate a capacity to deliver, an indication of what success would look like and how it could be measured, and a description of how the project will be delivered, and also a credible indication of the potential reach of the project. The applications will be assessed based on the following criteria, and an assessment panel will be put together with the lead funders, with creative and traveller representation on the panel as well. The grant decisions will be announced before the end of April, we hope, and the closing date for applications is the 31st of March. So the award will be granted by the Creative Ireland programme on behalf of all 4 supporting organisations. The projects must be completed and the funding drawn down by the end of November 2023. And the lead partner of the successful proposal will sign a grant agreement with ourselves in Creative Ireland. The grant agreement will specify the project outputs, the budget and a drawdown schedule based on the information provided in the application form. So it's very important that you provide as much detail as you can. And the drawdown will be from this department as a single point of contact. So how to apply? The applications must be made online on the application form on submit.com by 6 p.m. on the 31st of March. And the application will actually close at 6 p.m. So it's really important that you get your application in before then. And queries can be submitted on submit.com also. I went the wrong way there. So I can go through what the application form is going to look like if you find that might be useful. It's quite straightforward. The name of the lead applicant should be input on the system. And then you'll be asked to describe what the lead application is. So an individual or an artist or a travel organisation. And then the name and the roles and the phone number. The form really does speak for itself. Application details. So is it an individual or is it a group who's applying? And then partner applicant details need to be input on the form as well. So the applicant details, if you have 4 partners, you need to upload additional details as a Word document separately, and you can attach it to your application form. If you're applying for the Shared Island project, we just ask you to say yes or no. And then give details of relevant experience and show that you meet the eligibility criteria. The project itself then can be described by giving it a name in the title part, and then the details. You have 500 words, I think, is the upper limit of the amount of words that you can use to describe your project. And then if you could outline how you plan to measure the engagement and the outcomes and the impact of your project. And then, of course, the important part is the budget. So the amount of funding that you are seeking will be between 30,000 and 50,000 euro. And then we ask for a breakdown as to how that funding will be spent throughout the project. And then you need to sign your application form and submit it to us before the 31st of March 2023. So we'd like to show you a video now of some of the projects that were successful last year. Please, if you could do that, Maura.
Yeah. Okay.
I stop sharing my screen.
Your stop. Sorry, no, I just had to turn on the sound.
Okay, sorry.
Where is it gone? There it is. If anyone can't hear it, the video is actually shared in the chat as well, so you'll be able to look at it afterwards.
Our head was bandaged and he broke every bone in our body.
So the importance of the project like this is promoting traveller well-being through creativity.
Creativity for our collective mental health, I think it's needed.
I don't understand much change. I mean, you were grand doing this up until now. I mean, why does other people need to know our business?
And I think it's really important that the script is written by someone in the community.
Like, for people that aren't travellers, this show will show them how complex a traveller's life can be.
Being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did something today, it's going to allow our community to thrive once more.
And I hope that more travellers gets opportunities to do this because it's great for your mental health.
What Bible do you be reading? What? Is that the Bible that's upside down in your own mind?
Time is precious. Do what you love what you do. Forget what happened yesterday, live for today, because tomorrow's not promised.
Cabbage, cabbage. And gonna means shoes, isn't it? Green cheese, not onions. Green cheese, I never heard that one of. It's a girl, is it? Yeah.
Blacking is a girl.
Yeah, we've shed tears, haven't you?
It started to develop from just an idea on a page to now we were in kind of submerged in facilitation exercises. We had great participants from the travelling community willing to embark on the journey with us.
We're all getting hit. It's a one-star rate.
Various different artists throughout the years, be they singers or visual artists or actors or writers, they write about what they know, and most about what we know is what we feel, and most of what we feel is garnered from experience. And if we don't get the opportunity to express that, it's not going to have any positive effect on our mental health. They're intrinsically linked. I mean, whenever you see any kind of initiative or project, it's going to instill a vote of confidence in the next generation. They just need a bit of encouragement, time and space, and an absolute access route into the exact same art forms that we're doing now. And who knows?
Thanks very much, Maura.
We have some questions there, and Deirdre, you're asking some really good questions. The answer really, I hope I'm speaking on behalf of all colleagues, is that, you know, if you have a partner that's going to be with you the entire length of the project, I'd be listing them as a partner. If you have some traveller artists or individual artists, settled artists that you want to bring in and you know who they are, we'd be very interested to see that on the application form. Not if it's just a wish list. We have had applications where people gave us a list of people and it became obvious that was a wish list, that none of those people had been contacted. So if it's an individual artist who's going to be brought in perhaps once to facilitate a workshop and you know them and you definitely have them on board, we'd love to see that. And I think the reason we'd like to see it is we envisage that there will be a lot more demand on the fund this year. Last year was the first time we did it. I think we're perhaps, you know, victim of our own success. There will be more applications. It will be a tougher decision this time. So as much information as possible to help us weigh up the difficult decision, because almost certainly there won't be enough funding for everyone. Does that answer your question, Deirdre? I can't quite see you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks so much, Tanya. That's great. Okay,
we're happy to take any more questions either in the chat, or if anybody would like to ask a question, just raise your hand.
Any questions on shared island, for example? Anybody on the call particularly interested in a shared island application? This is the first time we'll have done shared island, so we're learning like you're learning.
Yeah, Tanya, back again, Deirdre Mikowski. Yes, I am here on behalf of An Charman, which is a traveller-led traveller project in Island, County Tyrone. So yeah, one of the things we're wondering about, and the situation in the north, I suppose, is quite different in terms of, especially it's a women's group at An Charman who have a specific interest here in this fund, and we're wondering about scale or an expectation of scale and reach, because our starting point is very low, not in terms of numbers of people or families within the community who engage and participate in the project, but who might be in a place to undertake this type of exploratory journey, you know, in terms of their own health and well-being through a creative project. So that's maybe another question, is about scale or expectation of numbers involved and reach.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, Karen.
I suppose what I can say to you is, again, we're in a lucky and privileged position. This is not a numbers game, because I know other funders would be saying, well, what's the maximum reach of this project? If you apply and you say, I think realistically it'll be 5 women, and that's realistically what I can pull together, that's okay. I don't think we do want a realistic assessment of the number of people you feel you can involve. And I suppose it's fair to say that, you know, we only got our shared island funding 8 weeks ago, and we're learning like you are. The Taoiseach and the department have said the real thing here is the mutual exchange. So in other words, it's not, Yira, I'm going to go to Belfast and do a project, and I'm going to Cork to do a project, and they're 2 separate projects. The question that the department of the Taoiseach will be asking is, are these people being brought together in any way? So if you're planning a shared island project, we just want to understand how often, in what way will these groups, however big or small they are, be brought together in some meaningful way, because the purpose of shared island is mutual understanding.
I think that answers another question for us, because some of the artists who are professional artists but based with, you know, quite locally in the community that the women are identifying are not travellers themselves, and that was one of their questions, was, you know, should we be bringing in other traveller artists and people to support, whereas
No, you can
I
bring
think at a
in,
local,
you can, not at all, Deirdre, you can bring in traveller artists, settled artists, international artists. That's the beauty of this fund. You might have an artist that you feel would work really well with this group in your area, and perhaps with a group on the other side of the border. So absolutely, that's absolutely fine. Again, free rein there.
thank you.
I think Joanna.
The chat there saying,
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me? You can. Yeah, my name is Marion Ward. I'm down in the south there, and in the past, in my life as a creative artist, I would have worked with the travelling community locally, but for the last 20 years I've worked in rehabilitation. But I currently don't have an artist group that or a travelling group that I could work with, but we have a really good idea that's very sustainable that could be rolled out nationwide. So I'm just wondering if there's any traveller group out there that would like to have a chat with me. Did you hear that?
We did, thanks, Joanna, and maybe pop your email.
I don't know if that's okay or not.
It is. Pop your email there in the chat, Joanna. I suppose the one thing, we're slightly under pressure as government departments. We're not allowed to match people one to the other, because obviously we're also assessing the grant. So it's up to you, I guess, to make links with people rather than us saying, oh, you should talk to Joanna, Joanna, you should talk to. But if you pop your email there in the chat, perhaps if anyone's interested, they can reach out to you, or you can put any more information in the chat.
So
yeah, and I think possibly I can assist with just links to national networks, so you could go out to not individual organizations but through a network and see who comes back. So I could possibly give you those links if you put in your contact details.
So my name is Marion Ward. So I'm just going on the computer, at the work computer at the moment, which is logged in as Joanna. So my name is Marion Ward and my email is there. So I'd love to hear from Bridget from any links that you have there. And
No, I think I'd send you the network link, but as
okay.
Tanya said, I can't give you direct, but I could give you access to a network of traveller groups, and they could circulate it, and if someone chooses, they could respond. So once, your address is there, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
No, I understand what you mean. That's perfect. If I have the links, I can follow up myself. Thank you. That's it.
And I suppose just a practical basis, again, for the north-south or the east-west link, like we do understand some of those links can be virtual. But if, for example, you wish to bring a small number of women from Tyrone to Galway or Galway to Tyrone, obviously you would need to factor in a bus or any transport, all of which, can be covered in the budget. So we recognise that bringing people together has practical costs as well.
One of the other questions there in the chat is, for this project, does everything need to be fully completed by November? I suppose because we are a government department, we must do all our budgeting within 1 calendar year. So any funding for the projects must be drawn down by the end of the year, and our last payment runs would be at the end of November. But if the project itself was still ongoing thereafter, we obviously would be delighted for that to happen. But the funding must be drawn down by the end of November.
Sorry, another question from Deirdre. It's not standalone in the north, Deirdre. Just so we're clear, shared island is the shared bit. Shared. So it has to be travellers north and south coming together, not a project on its own in the UK or on its own in Northern Ireland. I hope that's okay. And somebody asked, Moira, do you want to take that one? Quotes included as part of the costings?
Sorry, I was just trying to reply to them. They're typing, but yes, cover everything anything that you are going to be paying for it, cover it in the funding area on submit.com, because if you don't mention it, then we won't cover the grant for it. So yes, put in quotes for everything.
So look, some of the projects did roll over past November, but not with funding from us. And I know that's very difficult. Can I just acknowledge that to everybody on the call? It's not the way in community development you would like to do business. This idea of all the money having to be spent by November, but unfortunately, unlike perhaps our Heritage Council and Arts Council colleagues who can carry money over from year to year and give multi-annual grants, unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that. So this is the reason why we will be answering you super quickly. You will have an answer in 4 weeks and you will be getting going because you have to spend the money by November. So to be blunt about it, that's why the assessment, as soon as the applications close, we're on it, we're reading them, we're getting an answer back to you, because it's a very short time for you to complete that project. And we really, really appreciate that. And we will certainly do our best, if we have funding next year, to do the call a lot earlier, to give you as much of a calendar year as possible to be able to spend that money.
Yeah, we just have a hand up there from visual learning. Oh, I think it's gone.
Sorry, hi. Yeah, I was going to ask a question. Can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Claire. I worked in Carlow. That was my question there about the finishing everything up by November. I assume, does that mean that anything that you say you're going to deliver, you need to provide a report and to pay everything, like that last invoice could be sent in November, but the project might be finishing up in February? Or it needs to finish in November, it needs to be reported on, and then you get the last payment in November when it's finished?
No, I just said
Do you want to take that, Moira, Valerie?
I can answer it. Yeah, it would have to be finished by, our last payment would be due on the 19th of November. So we would expect the project to be finished by the end of November. Yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of wiggle room, whatever the name of the
Seriously, yeah.
person from visual learning is, that we probably wouldn't put in writing, because technically we can only pay you after we've no prepay sanction. So what that means is we'd be paying you on the assumption that we owe you this money because you've paid it out. Now, that said, there is always a little flexibility at the edges, that we pay you in November and you pay the people, the artists, the travelers, whatever, you've paid them, but the actual delivery for whatever reason is slightly delayed. You know, we try and be understanding, but it is within the rules that the Controller and Auditor General must be demonstrated that we are paying you for things you have already paid for. So it would be hard for us to argue that we were paying you for something that hadn't happened for another 3 months.
Sure, but you know, you want a timeline that indicates everything would be completed by the beginning of November.
The end of November.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I just answer a question from Elaine O'Connor? The quotes or costings, when you're in the funding part of the application, you just have to put in costings, what you expect everything to cost over the 6 or 7 months of your project. So you don't need to attach quotes from anybody. It's just what you think are the costings for each part of the project. Is that okay, Elaine?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
There's a few questions as well about the payment process. So any successful applicants will sign contracts with Creative Ireland. And in those contracts, we will discuss payment dates with you. So you'll be paid in 2 or 3 payments. There'll be initial payment, and then after that, the other 2 payments will be staggered over the few months of the project. And just something, you know, we pay after the work is done, so you'll have to show receipts of everything being done.
I would just have a question from Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Kerry County Council. I just have a question to do with the project itself. Like, is there a possibility of using this as a kind of feasibility study, an artist-led research project, so kind of more focused on the process necessarily than the outcome? Or is there really needs to be an end result to measure?
A process-based process, is this with a traveller artist on his or her own?
It would be an artist-led, so not with a traveller group, so not specifically a traveller artist, but
okay. I mean, that could fall within it. Obviously, you'd need to be setting out, I always try, and this is not a criticism, this isn't Arts Council funding, so it's not about the process for the artist, it's about the travellers. So if you were very clear about who are the travellers that would be working with this artist, if it's a process and it doesn't finish in an exhibition or anything, that's absolutely fine. But the slide rule that we'll be running over it is not that this is a wonderful experience for an artist.
Yeah.
It's the community engagement with the travellers, Hannah. So if that's answered, hopefully that means you could apply.
Yeah, no, that's it. Thank you, Tanya.
I suppose, Bridget, you're on mute there.
I was saying that it would demonstrate some impact on health and well-being as well for travellers, rather than, I suppose that's the difficult with process, you know, for it to have that impact on health and well-being. If there was something that was through that process, you were empowering people, or there was something that could demonstrate a health and well-being impact, that would be important from my perspective. Yeah, thank you.
The other thing I would say, because there's a lot of talk about the payments, and I totally get that anxiety if you're a small organisation for cash flow purposes. And I will say that my colleagues Valerie and Moira on this call will not be slow in paying. I know that some of you have had horrendous experiences with government departments of waiting months for that. That will not be the case with us. Once we've agreed, and it'll be according to when you feel you need the money, we'll be pushing that through the system quickly. So rest assured, Moira will be on it, because I know that is a worry that you're having to cash flow things from small organisations.
Has anybody else any questions that we haven't answered yet?
So question there from Sandra, Valerie. Sandra, do you want to maybe just, is this because you've been involved with a previous project, Sandra? Is that it? Is Sandra on the call?
Yeah, I see her name, but she's on mute. Maybe she doesn't realize she's on mute, Sandra.
I suppose the answer to the question is that if a project was successful last year, it would make sense for some of those elements to be replicated in different areas this year. We wouldn't rule out an application because it was similar to something that was previously successful. If that answers your question.
And Hilary, absolutely, you can employ a project manager. We're big believers in project managers here in Creative Ireland, because if you don't have a really good project manager that has the trust of the project participants, this project is going nowhere. We have experience of projects without project managers, where it just didn't work. But, you know, appreciate that the budget is the budget, but we would definitely be interested to know who the project manager is. Does he or she have a particular connection with some of the people involved, or, you know, but yes, absolutely, don't worry, you can include that cost.
Perfect, thank you. I see a question there from Justine. Can the project be child focused or only adult groups? I think, Tanya, there's another project within Creative Ireland that is for traveller children. Would that exclude them from this particular process?
It doesn't exclude children, but there is a vast array of other funding that you know, through ETBs and other structures that work with traveller children. So I won't lie that certainly from the Creative Ireland assessment point of view, we'll be bringing out another fund probably in a month's time under another pillar of our work called Creative Youth. And that will, one of the target groups is traveller children. And that's in fact a larger fund than this one. So I suppose in our mind, obviously our colleagues in the HSE and Arts Council may feel differently, but I guess in our mind, there will be other funds for projects purely about creative projects for traveller children. So if possible, if the focus wasn't on children, that would be great. But just, you know, in theory, yes, this is open to all ages, but we expect this to be heavily subscribed. The other fund will be only for children under the age of 18.
Thank you. There's a question there from Fanula as well. What about a traveller-led process-based project? I'm not absolutely certain what that question means. So Fanula, if you'd like to ask your question in person.
Yes, sorry, my voice is a little weak at the moment. It was just following on from the question about having a more process-based, like study type project, and what if what we're looking at the moment is something very community-based and kind of exploring the arts, and maybe rather than having a, you know, really set deliverables around the arts, more focusing it on the community having the chance to explore and come up with their own end products, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Again, the slide rule is how creative is it? So it isn't, you know, obviously there are other funds for community development. So we'll be thinking, is there a really strong creative element to this project? But it can be a process-based project over the next couple of months, of course.
Thank you.
Just have a question there from Rosa.
Hi, I'm with Music Generation in Laois, and I'm just interested in the other fund that was mentioned. Would our Music Generations going to be able to apply to that under the youth pillar, because it's a young group of travellers that we're working with under 18?
Yes, that absolutely, Rosa. You might just put your email in the chat for Moira, and she'll make sure that her colleague who's advertising the Nurture Fund make sure that you get that call when it goes out.
Great, thanks a million.
Will the Creative Youth have a shared island funding? Deirdre, you're asking all the hard questions. The answer is we're not sure yet. You're looking at half the Creative Ireland team. It's a small team, so not everything is. But yeah, absolutely. Pop anybody interested in the Nurture Fund, let Moira know, and she'll make sure that our colleagues dealing with Creative Youth send you the call for proposals. So I think, are there any other specifics, not about the Nurture Fund, but about this fund?
I don't see any more questions in the chat there, Tanya.
Lovely. Well, look, in that case, we'll just stay on the chat so we can pick up any emails. A recording of this, maybe we could stop recording now, Moira. A recording of this and the slides will be put on submit.com.